Our time, right now in the studio, is Carolina Coral. Greetings to the viewers of freedom. Let's move on to the news. The Russian army shelled the Dnipro district of Kherson. A 62-year-old man was injured in the attack. According to the Kherson Regional Military Administration, he suffered a blast injury and shrapnel wounds to the head. The victim was hospitalized in serious condition, and doctors are providing him with all necessary assistance. 2 people were killed and 3 others were injured as a result of a Russian attack on the Odesa region. One of the injured was hospitalized in serious condition. The Russians struck a parking lot with trucks. This was reported by the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. A fire broke out there. Rescuers quickly extinguished it. The process of identifying the deceased is still ongoing. On the night of November 2nd, the Russian army struck Zaporizhzhia. A residential area came under fire. As a result of the attack, 3 people were injured, a 2-story house was partially destroyed, and more than 70 others were damaged. A city infrastructure facility was also attacked, and a power line was damaged. About 60,000 customers were left without electricity. You can learn more about the aftermath of this attack in our report.
Russian forces attacked Zaporizhzhia at around 2 in the morning. Local residents recall, first there was a loud explosion, then a shockwave hit their homes.
I didn't even have time. I didn't even have time to think that this could be the end. I didn't have time to be scared. Back in October, there was a strike on the next street over. People were hurt.
This neighborhood was under Russian shelling less than a month ago. Since then, local residents have been paying close attention to air raid alerts and listening for explosions.
A missile alert was announced, and almost immediately there was a glow in the windows, even though they were blacked out. And there was this terrifying vibration. The whole house shook, the furniture, the doors. It felt like the house was lifting off the ground.
The explosion half destroyed one of the houses, tore the roofs off dozens of neighboring homes, and shattered their windows. The walls are cracked, the roof needs repairs, but that's almost lucky, says Oksana.
We were lucky. Our house has cracks. The roofing sheets on the roof lifted, and the doors were almost blown off their hinges. Our neighbors have more damage. Their windows were blown out, their car was damaged, and their gate got jammed. At night, we helped people get out of their yards because no one knew what would happen next.
Experts determined that the Russians shelled the city with multiple rocket launch systems. Now, rescue workers and utility crews are working at the sites of the shelling. They are removing debris, restoring power lines, and helping residents cover damaged roofs and windows. Ola Prydikin and Boris Yakovenko reporting from Zaporizhzhia for Freedom TV channel.
The entire Donetsk region was left without power as a result of Russian strikes on the electrical grid. And as the head of the Regional Military Administration, Vadim Filishkin, reported, emergency power outages began due to damage to the energy infrastructure. Specialists are, of course, already working to eliminate the consequences of the accident. Power supply will be restored as soon as possible, Filishkin emphasized. Russia attacked the Chernihiv region with drones. A 47-year-old man was injured there. His house burned down, according to the National Police of Ukraine. Homes of local residents in the region were also damaged. For the second time in the past 2 days, Russian Shahid drones attacked Novorossiversky, where residential houses, outbuildings, and vehicles were damaged. Police are documenting the aftermath of the attack and collecting evidence of the occupiers' war crimes. Russia launched 2 Iskander-M ballistic missiles and 79 drones at Ukraine. The attacks came from the directions of Kursk, Milarovo, Oryol, and Primorsko-Akhtarsk. This was reported by the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. The attack was repelled by aviation, anti-aircraft missile troops, electronic warfare and drone units, and mobile fire groups of Ukraine's defense forces. According to preliminary data, 67 drones were shot down or suppressed by air defense. There were confirmed hits from 1 ballistic missile and 12 attack drones at 6 locations, as well as the fall of downed drones at 2 locations. Ukraine's defense forces are not allowing the Russians to advance toward Kostiantynivka. According to Dmytro Zaporizhzhia, spokesperson for the 11th Army Corps of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Ukrainian troops control the settlement of Stepaki, which was destroyed by Russia, and are actively destroying the enemy. Zaporizhzhia noted that the invaders will likely focus their efforts on Kostiantynivka, using equipment and reserves, and will also continue their offensive in the Pokrovsk direction. He also reported that the Russians are actively using tactical aviation, dropping aerial bombs to destroy the city.
We are actively destroying the enemy and not allowing them to advance toward Kostiantynivka, although the enemy will likely focus their subsequent efforts specifically in the direction of Kostiantynivka, especially deploying their most powerful reserves. There was a period of time when the so-called Dobropilsky salient was formed. For about a month, the enemy focused their efforts on using tactical aviation, bombing that area with glide bombs. However, after the Ukrainian armed forces managed to eliminate the salient along with the Russian occupiers, the enemy once again concentrated their efforts on using glide bombs against the city of Kostiantynivka. Dmytro Zaporizhzhia, spokesperson for the 11th Army Corps of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, speaking live on the News Marathon.
Foreign investors are actively investing in Ukrainian companies that are developing drones and defense technologies. Western funds, in particular, have increased their investments in Ukrainian startups. This was reported by the Wall Street Journal. This helps them expand their presence in international markets. One of the largest deals was an investment in a Kiev-based company, which raised $15 million to develop technologies for coordinating drone attacks. Experts predict that after the war ends, Ukrainian drone companies will have enormous growth potential, and their technologies will be in demand worldwide. The unmanned systems forces of the armed forces of Ukraine carried out strikes last night on targets inside Russia, and one of them was the Lipetsk substation with a capacity of 500 kilovolts. The strike was confirmed by Robert Brody, the commander of the unmanned systems forces. According to him, 5 substations in Russia were hit overnight. The Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, carried out a series of precise attacks in the temporarily occupied territories, locations where Russian equipment is concentrated, which are used for logistics and the distribution of occupation forces, as well as the deployment sites of Russian army personnel, were hit. This was reported by the SBU. The nighttime strikes were carried out using FP-2 drones equipped with warheads weighing 105 kilograms each. This ensured the high effectiveness of the operation. The Security Service of Ukraine stated that they continue to neutralize the enemy wherever they are. The SBU struck a tanker and oil infrastructure in Russia's Tuapse. According to Freedom sources, drones from the Alpha Special Operations Center attacked the facility together with other security agencies. 5 hits were recorded. The tanker caught fire, and oil loading stands and port buildings were also damaged. The port of Tuapse includes an oil terminal and a Rosneft oil refinery.
The security service continues to strike at Russia's oil refining infrastructure, which supplies the enemy with resources for aggression against Ukraine. As long as the war continues, explosions at Russian oil refineries will continue. Source: Freedom in the Security Service of Ukraine.
North Korean soldiers who were captured and are now in Kiev are asking not to be sent back home. 2 North Korean soldiers, for example, have requested to be sent to South Korea, not North Korea. They made this statement to a South Korean human rights organization during an interview for a documentary film. According to South Korean intelligence, about 10,000 North Korean soldiers may have been sent to Russia to fight against Ukraine. It is also reported that around 2,000 North Korean soldiers have been killed in the fighting in Ukraine. In Belgium, several drones were spotted over a military airbase. This happened on November 1st. The police deployed a helicopter to pursue the drones, but without success, according to local media. Reportedly, the drones were moving toward the Netherlands. The Belgian Minister of Defense stated that drone flights over military facilities are prohibited and that measures must be taken to shoot them down. Today, on the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres noted in his statement that journalists face threats, attacks, imprisonment, and even murder, and that almost all crimes against them remain unsolved.
The digital space must be safe for those who report the news. When journalists are silenced, we all lose our voice. Let us stand together to protect press freedom, demand accountability, and ensure that those who speak truth to power can do so without fear. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations.
The National Committee of Ukraine for Cooperation with the UNESCO International Program for the Development of Communication has called on international partners to step up efforts to protect journalists and to hold accountable those responsible for crimes against media representatives committed by Russia. As the committee reminded, since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, 116 journalists have been killed, 18 of them while carrying out their professional duties. For example, on October 23rd, our colleagues in Kramatorsk were killed. Journalist Elena Gromova and cameraman Yevhen Karmazin. They were documenting the aftermath of the Russian shelling. Their car at a gas station was attacked by a Russian Lancet drone. In addition, journalist Victoria Rosneft became a victim of the Russians. She disappeared in August 2023 during a trip to territory temporarily occupied by Russia. In April 2024, the Russian Federation confirmed for the first time that it had illegally detained her, after which Victoria's father received a message about her death. Allegedly, according to information from the Russian authorities, this happened during her transfer from Taganrog to Moscow. The Ukrainian side was only able to recover Victoria's body in April 2025. It was at that time that a criminal case was opened. The actions of the Russian Federation have been classified as war crimes combined with intentional murder. Let's discuss the next topic in more detail. Turkey is ready to once again act as a mediator in peace negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. This was stated by Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. According to him, Ankara could host a fourth round, as well as a potential leaders' summit in Istanbul. Fidan emphasized that Turkey will continue to support diplomatic efforts to achieve peace and is ready to provide its platform for direct negotiations between Kyiv and Moscow.
3 rounds of negotiations between the Russian and Ukrainian delegations in Istanbul led to tangible results, in particular, the exchange of prisoners and the resumption of direct dialogue between the sides. We sincerely believe that diplomacy remains the only way to a peaceful resolution of the war in Ukraine. Hakan Fidan, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, during his speech at the TRT World Forum.
Ukraine has repeatedly stated its readiness for realistic negotiations with Russia at any time and in any country. This was stated by Mykhailo Podoliak, advisor to the head of the office of the President of Ukraine, on the Freedom TV channel. However, according to him, such meetings are better held at the level of leaders because only then is it possible to reach any decisions. Russia, on the other hand, usually sends only fictitious delegations to negotiations, he says.
The negotiation platform in Turkey allowed for the resolution of several humanitarian issues. This refers to increasing the volume of prisoner exchanges, exchanges of bodies, and so on. But there haven't been any significant breakthroughs. Nevertheless, Turkey is always truly ready to act as a powerful organizer, a strong logistics partner. That's very good, right? So, Turkey is interested, considering its fundamental interest in ensuring peace in the region. Its interests are in the Black Sea area. And of course, Turkey is ready at any moment to organize the negotiation process as quickly and efficiently as possible. Another issue, let me come back to this and sum it up here, is that Russia is not ready, first, for a real negotiation process, second, to stop the war, and third, let's put it this way, for Putin to stop living in this painful reality he's immersed in, where he has a wild love for mass violence.
Negotiations with Russia are only possible when the Russian dictator Putin changes his position and is ready for peace. This was stated by the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Yuri Taikiai. He noted that the Russian delegation only sends low-level officials to meetings without proper authority, who continue to issue ultimatums. Earlier, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Galuzin stated that Moscow is ready to resume negotiations, accusing Ukraine of refusing dialogue.
This year, the Ukrainian delegation has traveled to Istanbul several times for direct talks with the Russians. Unfortunately, our representatives encountered a group of low-ranking individuals there who kept making the same ultimatums and lacked the authority to resolve issues. The reason is simple: Putin is not seeking peace, he is looking for ways to continue the war. Please tell your boss to stop the war immediately. When he is ready, we can hold a meeting between the leaders and agree on a ceasefire. Yuri Taikiai, spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on social network X.
Ukraine and its allies are jointly developing a peace plan. It will be a single document. There are no alternative plans from individual countries. This was stated by the head of the office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak. And according to him, there are ongoing working discussions, but all partners are in constant communication. The document will take into account Ukraine's interests, Yermak emphasized.
This is not about competing initiatives. It's about finding synergy between Ukraine, the EU, the US, and other partners. Of course, US participation is fundamental. Presidents and European leaders agree that any negotiations must start with a ceasefire along the current line of contact. All partners believe that for diplomats to work effectively, the fighting must be stopped. We highly value President Trump's leadership as a peacemaker and believe that he is the one who can help Ukraine achieve a just, lasting peace backed by reliable security guarantees. Andriy Yermak, head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, in a comment to RBC Ukraine.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.